And so I was so angry about that and what had happened and how I was basically pushed out of my job. I mean, I left in the end, I separated from them. It was a pivotal point in my life that I thought, okay, I guess I could take some time off, raise my children. Nothing wrong with that. But I was also, a surgeon 4 years out of residency. That's not what you dream of. And so I just really decided, I was like, this is how women leave. This is why we're at 6%.
Welcome to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast, brought to you by Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, where we are on a mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Oschman, and today I am here with a guest I'm very excited about, Dr. Pamela Mehta. Pam is a highly respected orthopedic surgeon and founder of her own practice called Resilience Orthopedics in California. Beyond the operating room, Pam is also a passionate advocate for women in medicine. She has an active social media platform that she uses to inspire others to build careers and ultimately lives that they love. She's a mom of 3, advises several medical companies and startups, and she's the chief medical officer to the Good Feet store. And according to the internet, one of the most well-reviewed orthopedic specialists in San Jose, which I think is awesome. Pam is also the founder of Learn at Pinnacle, which is a platform designed to educate and empower women physicians to build profitable, purpose-driven lives. She's on a mission to change what's possible in medicine, and I'm so excited to have her here today. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to make this happen for a while, so I'm glad we were finally able to
Between your busy schedule and my busy schedule and just life, it's tough, but we make it work.
Yes. No, I love it. And I wore a little flavor of pink, and you're wearing your pink.
Wearing my Pinnacle pink as well.
Yes, we will get into all things Pinnacle. So I mentioned before we went live that I recently rewatched your TEDx talk, which I love because it tells a lot of your career story, and I would love for our listeners to get to hear some of that. So it's called No Seat at the Table, Make Your Own Table. I did omit a choice word in that, but listeners can fill that in for themselves. So maybe tell us a little bit about, 6% of orthopedic surgeons, I think it is, are women. We had Mary O'Connor on the show a couple years ago. That was a fascinating conversation. She talked a lot about this. I would love to hear, just tell us your story.
I thought in medical school, I was going to be some kind of primary care physician. I think I grew up around a lot of primary care physicians, pediatricians, OBGYNs, and I thought that's what I was going to do. And very quickly in my 3rd year, I did a trauma surgery rotation. And after that, I was like, there is no way I can't do this. I thought it was so cool that you can go into an operating room and fix people. And I just really liked that immediate gratification. And I switched gears and was all surgery. I didn't know what kind of surgery. But what I faced in those moments was a lot of hesitation, people who were skeptical, a lot of people saying, oh, well, if there is another field that you could like, you should do that other field. And I honestly didn't understand it because up until this point, the way I was raised, my parents treated me no differently than a boy. I was raised just like my brother. Education came first. I could barely cook. I didn't do many chores because my parents were so into me being a strong, independent woman who could stand up on their own and have this education behind them and have a strong career. So to me, I did not understand why people were trying to get me to not be a surgeon. And in residency, I felt also a little bit protected because it's still a teaching environment. There's a lot of women. My residency was in New York City at Columbia. And so we had a diversity of residents. We had women, we had different people of different races. But when I came out to interview for jobs, those rose-colored glasses were off. It was very apparent in my field that the men did not want the women to be working alongside them. And that was really tough for me as someone who just finished, 5 years of an orthopedic surgical training and 4 years of medical school and was finally ready to start a job and a life and have money and all of these things that we dream about, in our 20s as people in medicine. And so I just faced a lot of workplace hostility, discriminations, microaggressions. It just came at every aspect, every corner. And so it was really tough for me to face that. And it came to a head at my first employed job, but it also has led to me where I am today, which is starting my own practice, designing the life that I want. I have 3 children, as you mentioned, and I wanted to be someone whose identity wasn't just her career or just her family, but a kind of a meld of both. And I've been able to do that. But really, honestly, I mean, this is sad to say, I've only been able to do that because I started my own practice. And I don't think that's the answer for everybody. So this is a real change that we need to make in the workplace, not just in orthopedic surgery, but across all industries. But in ortho, it is tough because it's only 6% women. And I just don't see that changing, unfortunately, with that attitude, that mentality. I guess I understand where it comes from, but I just don't know how we change it, how we stop. I think a lot of it is advocacy and just awareness to begin with, because people don't know this. But then a real change needs to happen because we are very important in the workforce. I mean, I know you feel very strongly about this too.
Oh, absolutely. I know this is something that we've connected on because it's better than 6%. Yeah. Financial planning is a very male-dominated industry as well. And I can relate to the experience of if you're not able to exist the way that you want to in an environment that's really masculine, you have to get outside of it and pave your own path. And so in medicine, I mean, that is not the path of least resistance, starting your own practice and building that from the ground up. So, I mean, I understand what led you to that decision, but what gave you the strength and the bravery to say, everyone says this is crazy, but I am going to do it?
Well, to be honest, I was pissed. That's what happened, is I was so angry because I felt, so my husband is also an orthopedic surgeon. He's a spine surgeon. And he's a year older than me in trainings, but we kind of had very similar lives for many years. And even when we got married, but we didn't have children yet, I felt like we led similar lives. We were both kind of grinding hard. Those first few years as an attending, any doctor will tell you, is tough because you're still honing your skill, right? Like it doesn't just stop at the residency training or fellowship training. But then I felt the difference when I had children, because no matter what, you are the one carrying that child. You are the one going through the emotions of it, postpartum. For the most part, women are the default parent. So my husband is super involved. I couldn't be happier. I mean, he does all the fun things with the kids, but ultimately the labor is on me in terms of the school lunches, the drop-offs, the pickups, the doctor's appointment, teacher appreciation week and getting gifts for them, all the little things, what camp they're going to do over the summertime. And I felt like that was such a tough part or stage of life. And then at that time, I was getting zero support at work from this employed position I was in, that I was so angry. I was like, this is the first time in my life, I studied so hard. I worked so hard. I was the one who showed up, early, stayed late, just like many of us, right? This was the first time where I didn't even feel like I was faltering. I just felt like I didn't need negativity and hostility around me. I didn't even need additional support, to be honest, which I think we should give women. And so I was so angry about that and what had happened and how I was basically pushed out of my job. I mean, I left in the end. I separated from them. It was a pivotal point in my life that I thought, okay, I guess I could take some time off, raise my children. Nothing wrong with that. But I was also, a surgeon 4 years out of residency. That's not what you dream of. And so I just really decided, I was like, this is how women leave. This is why we're at 6%. And so I just buckled down and thought, I am going to do it. And, against all the naysayers of number one, like you can't work part-time as a surgeon. Yes, you absolutely can. And you can be a fantastic kick-ass surgeon. Number two, you can't have these hours that I do, which starts after my children go to school. Surgeons' hours tend to be known, you start early, 6:30, 7 a.m. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Why? What's the reason for that? I want to be there for my kids in the morning.
Because that's how it's always been done.
Because it's always how it's been done. Exactly. I'm sure you feel that in your field too. So I just was going to disrupt the space and decide to do it my way. I also, after many years of practicing in different kind of healthcare realms, I decided to be an out-of-network sort of concierge orthopedic surgeon. And that's what fit for my life. You don't have to do that. I don't have the schedule I have because I did that. I just decided that I wanted to keep my overhead low in the practice. And part of that was not doing any authorizations and filling out a bunch of insurance forms, right? So for me, it was more about how is this going to streamline the process, and I'm going to just get to that good patient care because that's what I wanted to do at that point. But yeah, I think it was anger. And I think I still have that feistiness, which you've seen before.
It's showing up.
Showing up right now, exactly.
Your energy right now telling the story.
And I think it shows up because I really feel strongly that when we women train or study as hard as our male counterparts, why are we penalized? Because that happens to be the time where our biological clock is also ticking and it's time to have children.
You're right. There's nothing you can do about the biology of the situation. That is what it is. And you shouldn't have to apologize for it. You shouldn't have to feel bad for it. You shouldn't have to make yourself smaller because of it.
It should be baked into the process. And it should be a situation where we know women in their 30s are finishing their grad school, med school, whatever, law school, and getting out into the workforce. And that is going to be the time they're likely going to have children. So how do we accommodate for this? And so, like I mentioned before, I accommodated it for it by starting my own practice, but that's not realistic for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, all of the reasons that you mentioned are the reasons that people probably told you choose anything but orthopedic surgery. And you're like, well, here's something that I love. And I mean, I can totally relate. It's like you have blinders on, you're laser focused on your goal. And I mean, I was raised very similarly to you, it sounds like, relative to brothers, then, being told that I could do anything and truly believing that. You get out into the world and then you realize that these things are real, these things that people tell you about, but you don't feel until you get there. So I'm curious because one of the things that I love is how you show up on social media. Like you put your career story out there on social media. You talk about this experience that you've had. You talk about your practice. You talk about how it's different. You talk about how you've integrated your life as a mother, as a wife, as a surgeon. How do you think that changes? Like if you were in your shoes a number of years ago, but had someone to look at, had someone to reach out to see that it was possible, how do you think that maybe works to change things over time?
I think that's the only reason I got on social media, actually, because I thought during my whole saga with my employed position and being pushed out, and even while I was in residency and I looked back, I thought, I have some great male mentors, but I really don't have any female mentors. So I've actually never seen this done. I haven't seen an orthopedic surgeon having children right at the beginning of her career. And how is she raising them? How is she having a fulfilling marriage even too, to be honest? I just didn't see any of that. And so I thought, well, I've got to be the person that does that. I've got to get out there on social media. It was 2018. I think there were some healthcare influencers. It was early, right? And I thought it was odd, actually. I said, these people are posting and we're just supposed to like and comment. It felt so odd to me. But then I started doing it, and all these women across the country and even across the world, a lot of brown women in, the Middle East and India would reach out. They would, slip into my DMs and they would say, how are you doing this? You're a surgeon and you're married and you have children and you have your own practice. And they had these legitimate questions. And I realized there's a lot of people that don't think you can do it, because how would you think you could do it if you didn't see it happening around you? How would you think?
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, I don't even know who to attribute it to, but because I've just internalized it at this point, but it's you can't be what you can't see. And so I think this is something, I have 3 daughters. I know you have a daughter. And this is something I think about. I think about what genders am I using in stories? What genders of different professionals am I exposing them to? What are they seeing in terms of what's possible for women? Because I want them to believe that story. They will face challenges, I'm sure, just like we have. Hopefully they will be less because we've been able to help pave the way a little bit. But I mean, I want them to see what's possible. And so I have showed those who know me or maybe have listened for a while, my middle daughter she is dead set on being a doctor. Has been, I kid you not, since she was 18 months old.
I love that.
And she has the medical school for kids books that she reads. And she can tell you more about the body than I could tell you about the body because she's studied it. But I show her posts of yours on Instagram and other women physicians that, I see a post and I think she'll like this. And so I show it to her because she's seeing a future for herself that I think is one that I couldn't have seen for me because there wouldn't have been that window to expose me to anything that wasn't right in my own backyard. So one of the other things that I think is interesting about your career and kind of the way that you've built it, and something that doctors have come to me about more and more really since the pandemic, I think medicine in a lot of respects has gotten a lot more challenging. And so there are doctors looking for how can I make money in different ways? How can I maybe build different income streams? How can I put my skills to work in a way that I don't have to show up in the OR or, that it's different. And that's something that you've been able to do. I know you're chief medical officer at the Good Feet store. You've advised a number of companies. How did you get into that? And sort of what is your take on that as a viable option for physicians, either as kind of a side income or, something that they might fully transition to at some point?
Okay, I love it for so many reasons. Number one, I think part of our burnout as physicians and any provider in healthcare is that we are churning out patients day in, day out. And that interaction between patients, although so fulfilling, it just takes one or two bad encounters or someone disgruntled or something goes wrong, because it will. Medicine is an art that really kind of chips away at our soul and leads to some burnout. And so a way to counteract that, in my mind, is to diversify your income streams.
I love it.
Yeah, by using your medical brain. I mean, of course, I can go out and invest in real estate or do something completely different, play the stock market, all of those things. But something that's nice about advising, consulting, being chief medical officer is you are still using your skill set just in a different way. And so I really love that because it exercises my brain in a different way. The second reason I think it's important versus, investing in real estate or doing something else, which nothing wrong with that, is that you get to have another seat at a table that does not include a lot of scientists and physicians. And so I live in the Silicon Valley and I see so many startups and so many things about that have to do with healthcare, especially with AI and with telehealth back in the pandemic. You'll see oftentimes those boards, they don't even include a woman. They don't include a physician. They don't include the people that are on the boots on the ground that would have the most knowledge about this, right? So I think it's also important because when you're with your patient, you're affecting their life. But when you're doing something like consulting a startup or a big company, you are affecting many lives and your opinion and expertise is so valuable. And so I have found that to be really gratifying for that reason as well. The way that I got into it actually was through social media. So, social media has a lot of pros, some cons for sure as well. But a headhunter found me through my social media account, and the Good Feet store was They were looking for a podiatrist and possibly an orthopedic surgeon. And the CEO, who I think you've met, Lauren, he was very into finding someone that was a woman, that was a person of color. He really wanted to diversify his board. His board, like most, are just white men, and private equity is a lot of that. So he kind of really wanted to have there to be a diverse voice at the table. And so I started as medical advisor. I did that for about 3 years. I got, monthly stipend with some hours associated. And then I just came to him and I put together a job description and said, you really want me as your chief medical officer. Let's make this happen. It took about 8 months to solidify it, but I did it. I pitched it to him. He had obviously already seen my work, but I said I'd like more of a permanent role within the company. I'd like to be part of more conversations at the table of, certain meetings. And so he agreed. And I've been doing that since January of 2024. So it's been good. It's difficult to manage the schedule in terms of seeing patients and doing those kind of other side hustles. But again, I think it's important because I think, we as physicians, we tend to have a very straight line trajectory. There's not a lot of lateral movement like in other fields.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I can't just be a dermatologist because I got sick of looking at bones, right? So this is something to be able to do, to have a little bit of a different lateral movement trajectory than just that straight line trajectory.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that also gives you flexibility too when you get into a position. I mean, I think about you being at this pivotal moment of like, I can't work here anymore. I need to go elsewhere. Do I get another employed position? Do I do locums for a while? Do I take some time off? Do I start my own practice? None of those seem awesome in the moment.
I did it all. I cast a wide net. I did every single thing you just mentioned. I was taking these windy roads for 3 hours where I felt like I was going to, lose my lunch, to these rural hospitals. I did locums at those places. I got some leadership positions there. I joined a group practice where I just got a percentage of my collections. I tried another employed gig. I did that all. So yeah, it's a nice different kind of job to do when you're in a point of transition.
Yeah.
The consulting and the medical advising. So it's something I would really encourage people to do. It uses a different side of your brain. It's pretty cool. And also it does help with your patient care because you kind of have an idea of what it's like to build products or devices or tech for the people, the mass population. And so it does kind of give that lens as well.
Well, I was just talking to someone about that yesterday, talking about AI and healthcare and different things. And just thinking about access. I mean, just thinking about patient populations that could have access to healthcare in a way that they don't now. And I don't like the idea of thinking about those things developing without a doctor at the table. So there are lots and lots of companies that are trying to get off the ground and do interesting, innovative things, both inside of just industry of medicine and pharma and things like that, and also, completely outside of what we've thought of traditionally as medicine. And so I think I've also seen doctors try to use that as like a transition point into retirement as well, where they're
Yes.
thinking, I'm done, I'm done with clinical medicine. I don't, it's like it takes a toll on your body and your sleep and, all of that, but they're not ready to hang it up fully yet. And so I've seen some doctors, one where like he was really struggling with this situation or this decision. And I said, well, have you thought about maybe doing a chief medical officer kind of thing or a medical advisory kind of thing? And he said, well, no, how would I even start?
So that's a good point, because at that point you're ready to be done, right? Like you don't want to hang it up completely, as you said, but you want to do something. So I would advise physicians who are even kind of dabbling with that is to get started, build a LinkedIn profile. That's probably the number one thing to do. I did it on social media, but again, LinkedIn is probably more powerful, to be honest.
There's a lot more business on LinkedIn.
A lot more business on LinkedIn. What you can do is do multiple platforms because they kind of feed into each other. Start writing blogs on your website. Anything that you can do to control your digital footprint will help with these other kinds of jobs that you may be searching for. And it is a really great way to sunset out of clinical medicine. I agree.
Yeah. That's such great advice. Just create the thought leadership, showcase that.
We are in such an interesting time because we have complete control over that digital space. You can create whatever narrative that you want to create. I mean, even for your own practice, I tell a lot of physicians, you should be working on Google reviews. Why wouldn't you do that? That is basically your ticket to getting more patients to read about you on the internet.
Such a good point.
As physicians, we keep fighting, oh, why are we able to be reviewed? Like people don't like that idea because usually it's the disgruntled people that go to the internet, right?
But then people like me who are in the market for a new specialist or a doctor, whatever, what do? I go on the internet and I look at the pictures. I usually am choosing a woman. If it says she's the mom, even better, just because that's someone I know I'm going to relate to. And then I look at how many stars they have.
Absolutely, right? So and it puts a doctor in a really bad mood, obviously, if they get, 1-star review. Oh, I had to wait for a really long time. Some things that are completely not controllable, right? So why not harness that and do it yourself? The patient is walking out of the room and they're super, super pleased, want to bring you a box of chocolates or a bottle of wine. Say, what will go a long way over that bottle of wine is leaving me a review. It's the only way that patients can find me on the internet. And, I'm a small business. It goes really well. So I really think harnessing that power of controlling that narrative online is so useful in different ways.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking of a mortgage officer that I know, and she does a lot of physician mortgages, which is how she and I work together a good amount. She has stellar Google review history. Hundreds of Google reviews. And she does this. She said, I figured out my clients are so happy at closing, and they're just complimenting what me and my team have done for them. And they're so thankful. And I'm giving them that little happy new house gift. And so she says, that's what I do. I just have a little QR code on a card. And I say, hey, I've so enjoyed helping you. One small thing that you could do that would really help me is leave a review. And so she has hundreds, again, of just amazing reviews online, and more doctors are finding her because of that. So I think that's great advice.
The other thing that you can do is, because in your field and my field and probably a lot of attorneys, is we have all these friends that ask us for a little curbside advice. So, I know some physicians get really bothered by that. I'm like, great. I like to help my friend out or my neighbor. And also then I can ask them for a review because I gave them great care.
That's a good idea too.
So I think a lot of ways to look at it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. I'm thinking, on the sidelines of the softball game or whatever, and someone's like, hey, what do you think about what's happening in the markets right now? Or, hey, I have this wrist pain. What do you think?
Yeah. Give them that advice and then say, hey, what did you think of my care? Here's that QR code.
Oh my gosh.
It has to be a little bit more in-depth relationship than that. I'm just joking, but I think it is another great way to control that digital footprint.
It's being proactive and thinking about seizing opportunity versus being reactive and hoping that stuff is
passive, because it's not going away. I'm on a lot of these Facebook message groups where people in medicine are just so disgruntled about these things. I'm like, instead of being disgruntled, do something about it. Because again, it's not going away. Everyone is going to go to the internet to find their information. There's no going back from that, right?
Well, and Yeah, I mean, you make such a good point too. It's like anyone can create a website, anyone can buy a web domain, anyone can tell their own story there. So I think, and I mean, people know how to vet reviews. I mean, in your example of had to wait really long, that's not going to disqualify a doctor to me.
Yes.
It's going to
And in
be,
fact, it actually shows some realism to your practice.
yeah,
So I think, having a couple 1-2 star reviews that are like that, waiting on hold, waiting in the room, it just brings a little bit more realism to your practice.
yeah. No, I think that's such good advice. I'm so glad that you shared that because I don't think that we've talked about that yet on any of these podcast episodes. And I think a lot of doctors can take something away from that. So thank you. So I do want to talk about, we're getting up on our time here because I know your time is very precious. I do want to talk about Pinnacle. So this is how you and I met, although I was following you on social media already and already thought that you were incredible before we had the opportunity to meet, and Vestia got involved in Pinnacle Conference. So what started as Pinnacle Conference is now Learn at Pinnacle. You all are doing so many amazing things. So first tell us, what is Pinnacle? How did that come to be? And how does that kind of tie into everything we've been talking about in your career?
2019, me and 2 other women met online. We would never have met otherwise. One is a fertility doctor, Dr. Natalie Crawford, and one is a peds ophthalmologist out of Hawaii, Dr. Rupa Wong. We would never have crossed paths if it wasn't for this little online community. And we started chatting about how we felt like women really needed a safe space to chat about things that we don't learn in medical schools. Business, negotiation, leadership, investing, what to do with your retirement, all these things. So many women I talk to don't even know really how much money they make, to be honest. Like they don't know what the expenses are and what they're bringing home. I find it fascinating. I can't believe we're all functioning, or many of us are functioning that way. And so the 3 of us got together and thought, let's get people together in real life to talk about these things. We all feel like we're so siloed once we're done with residency. You're just kind of grinding out. Again, it's that time where you're having children, so you're feeling a little bit more lonely also if you're choosing to have children. And so we wanted to get people together in person. So in 2019, we had our first conference. We sold out registration. We had a smaller room than we do now. So it was about 125 people. We sold out registration just by posting on our Instagram stories. We didn't do anything different. I think
That's
people
amazing.
showed us that people really wanted something like this.
They were looking for that community. Yeah.
They were looking for it. Exactly. So in 2019, we did that. Then obviously we know the world shut down. So we pivoted to some digital stuff, some virtual stuff. And then in 2022, we came back and we've had a conference every year. And we are so thrilled Vestia has supported us over the last, I think, three years, right? Yeah, 3 years. As a diamond sponsor. Yeah, it's really a place of learning and fun. And we make it really pink and glamorous, sparkles, bubbly, that whole 9 yards.
It's top notch. The details are, I mean, it's amazing.
Well, we want to give a luxury experience to these women who are oftentimes leaving their busy practices, their families, a lot of people that they're taking care of at home, whether it's parents, pets, whatever. And so we want to give them a luxury experience. We also want them to feel they can come as they are. So if you're not pink and sparkly, we love you. Absolutely come however you want. But we don't really feel there's a lot of spaces for that pink and sparkly and femininity.
So true.
In medicine, it's usually very black and blue suits, probably like your industry as well, box lunches, very sterile. And so we wanted to make this an experience. We think that's just as important as the talks that are being given.
Well, because there's an element of luxury and kind of being treated, I think, in the environment at the conference. So what's incredible is there's this amazing education. I mean, the speakers are amazing. What I love too, outsider's perspective, most of the speakers are doctors.
Yes.
And so it's not people from outside who are presuming to know what works in medicine or presuming to know what it's like to be a woman in medicine. It's actually women in medicine who have trailblazed in different ways, who are sharing their best advice for other women. And I think that's what's so powerful about that room.
Yeah, it's their stories plus their actionable strategies to how they got to where they are. And so it invokes a lot of conversation between talks and then at the gala and at the welcome reception. And so it really is a special experience. I'm not just saying that because, me and my co-founders created it. Just I have felt also as a woman in ortho, this yearning for that community and networking and the sharing of stories and just to feel like other people are going through what you are going through. I mean, it was such a lonely moment in my life when I got pushed out because I had an 18-month-old and a 3-month-old when that happened. You're already feeling, not yourself in that stage. And so it felt so lonely. And to have this place where you're hearing as sad as it is, stories like that, but then stories of victory and achievement and accomplishment and outside the box thinking. These women are doing so many cool things. They're starting podcasts, they're writing books, they're making skincare products. It's really great to see. They're scaling their practice. They don't just have one, they have like 5 that they're managing. It's very exciting. And I think something that sets us apart from some of the other female medical conferences, although we support all of them, obviously, especially and I'll get to why we became Learn at Pinnacle, is that we want women to stay in clinical medicine. We don't want people to leave. This is not just about burnout and wellness. Those are very important, but we want people to stay in clinical medicine. And so about 2 years ago, we applied for our joint accreditation, which means that we can give CME out to 11 different special degrees, So MDs, DOs, nurses, PAs, dentists, a whole list of them. And so now we are accrediting not only other people outside of physicians, but other people's conferences and courses. And it turns out there's a lot of women out there right now. This is a hot time for them to be doing their own coaching and retreats and conferences and courses. And we're CMEing all of that, which is really exciting for us. So we are very supportive of all the women that are in our space and doing the work because we need more of it. We need more women to be doing this.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be competitive. And that's one of the things that I love about Pinnacle as well, is there's not a mentality of trying to keep your secrets, keep your best secrets or best advice to yourself. It's not like, oh my gosh, I don't want other people knowing how to do it because then everybody will be doing it. It's like, no, the way we share is the way that we take up more space, which is the way that we create change. And so what I love about what you're saying is that's not just like in Pinnacle Conference. It's also, there's so many other places where women are getting together and they're finding that community that is going to help them stay in medicine and help them do better things for their families, for their practices, all of that, and being able to support that beyond kind of your walls, so to speak, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think, look, this whole idea that you should be the token female at the table is ridiculous. I think the only way we're going to change this is if we're bringing women up along with us. And so we have to do that. We have to stop thinking that, it's only going to be one of us. And I understand it. There's that scarcity mindset, right? But we have to change that. Otherwise, we can't go anywhere unless we're all doing the work for each other, behalf of each other and promoting other women around us. There's been several opportunities I've gotten myself where I'm like, I'm a little overextended, but here are 5 other names I'm going to give you that are fantastic. And I think that's what we all need to be doing that.
Absolutely. Well, I think about this, because the way that I got at a lot of tables early on that I would not have been invited to just based on where I was at, but totally deserved to be at. It was because there was a man who was getting invited to those tables who knew that he's like, Lauren could do this just as well, maybe better than me. And so he would be like, I can't do it, but here's someone who would be amazing. And so then I start to get into those rooms. I start to get at those tables and I'm thinking, I can't lose this opportunity to bring another woman along. And so either paying that forward or saying, hey, we need to pull up a chair because this person also needs to be here, this other woman, and using that influence to make the table bigger.
Yeah. And, we have been so grateful for your support. I don't know if you remember how we first chatted or engaged with each other. Well, I don't mind sharing. I don't know if you're going to cut this out or not, but I wanted a really strong female financial advisor. I did not want and so when I left Lauren a message, I think it was a voicemail, I said, I only want you if you are the CEO of the company and you would be coming to Pinnacle.
And I think I called you back within 15 minutes.
Yes, correct. You did.
And we hit it off immediately because, we both understood. We both understood.
I said, you, right? You're like, it's just me, Pam. I said, great. I love it.
Yep. There's not some other shadow CEO that's coming instead. It will be me.
Because I was looking up financial advisors and I would just see, webpage after webpage of 10 men sitting at a desk or a boardroom table and they're all exactly the same. I was like, okay, I don't want that.
Well, and I think, it's been such a great experience too, to get to speak in a room full of women about things like finance, because so often when women physicians come to me specifically or to one of my female colleagues, they're saying, I haven't felt comfortable in any of these financial conversations before. I feel like you get me. And I feel like I can be honest.
Yes.
And I think it's so important that we're able, because when we're in rooms that are largely full of men, we have to show up with our A game. And so there is then a lack of authenticity in that, which drives me crazy. But it's like, you can't change that in the room. You just have to roll with it. But when you get a group of women together, or you go to see a woman doctor, if that makes you more comfortable, or you go to see, a fellow woman professional, then you can be authentic, because we know that we all get each other and we're all
Yes.
supportive of each other. And there's such power in that.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, because I myself in my own life, pre-meeting you, would meet with these financial advisors for me and my husband. The guy's either talking over me, or I'll ask a question and he'll think I'm like, I'm not very smart, or, it's clear that he should just be talking to my husband about the finances. That sort of like passive aggressive stuff is not okay. Like you have to build that relationship. How are we going to be powerful in what we're doing if we don't feel like we're getting that feedback from the right partner, which is yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love that so much. So I love that you've made space for more women and in your sponsors. Like, that's one of your criteria.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. You could be a man in the company, but I would like you to send the female representation, and I don't want them to just be some lower level person. I want them to be higher management leadership in the company. I think
I want
that's
to see that you believe in the mission of
yes.
Pinnacle in your own space. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So there is a membership, right? There is an online membership platform
Yes.
where doctors can get CME. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. And actually, starting this Pinnacle, we are making it free to anybody who wants to join. And
That's
it will
awesome.
be free CME as well. Correct. So we feel like we have a lot of education on that platform, and that we don't want to have any inhibitors to people being able to learn from that. And so what we have podcast episodes that you can get CME for. We have book clubs that you can get CME for, webinars. So we have a lot of learning that can be done, education, and it's for all of those credit types that I mentioned before. So it is on our website. The membership did have a fee associated with it, so we paused it, but starting May 15th, it will be free. It's going to be an app that you can download. You can listen, in the car, on a run, and then you just press submit. You get a CE certificate, a transcript already. It'll be sent to you in your email. It's a great way to learn some of these softer non-clinical. We have some clinical things in there, but some softer non-clinical topics that we don't learn in school, and also get CME for.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that too, because I've heard from a number of doctors recently who are part of bigger health systems or whatever, that those CME budgets are getting cut. And so they're not getting reimbursed for as much of their CME. So I love hearing that you all are going to be able to help with that.
Completely free. And I think, our learning management system is proprietary. We developed it out ourselves. We're very proud of it. And it's also very beautiful, just like our conference. So it's a kind of a nice interface to use, just learning and getting those credits.
That's awesome. Well, one last question that I need to ask you. We ask this to all of the guests that we have on the show. So at Vestia, we talk about not just helping doctors build wealth, but helping doctors build wealth that matters. Thinking that wealth goes beyond what's on your balance sheet. It's really about the totality of your life, and making a life that's meaningful to you, so that you look back and you're proud of how you used your resources for you and those you care about. So what does wealth that matters mean to you?
Wealth that matters to me is time with my family, with my children. And so that is the purpose behind me designing my life the way I wanted it. I was not going to be beholden to my medical career. I love practicing as a surgeon and physician. I would never, ever give it up. But I also didn't want it to become my entire identity. And I will put this out there. I also wanted to be compensated appropriately, because I don't think that just because you don't want to make that your whole life, that means your value is any smaller. And so
glad you added that.
Yeah. So I didn't, just because I think part-time has a bad meaning to it, sometimes. And also just this idea that women work less so they make less money. I make good money, and I'm proud to say that. And the reason I do that is because, again, I designed it that way so that I am able to practice in a way that is not going to burn me out. But then I also have a lot of time for my children and for my family.
I love that so much. And also, I'll just add back in something you said earlier. You went to the CEO of the Good Feet store and said, here's why you need a chief medical officer, and here's why I should be that person. So you advocate and you negotiate. And so it's not by accident that you're getting paid well.
It's not by accident. I think something, and Lauren, you've taught me this too a lot, is that men, they always ask for more, and they're constantly negotiating. They do not let more than a year go by where they're not bringing up important conversations with their boss or whoever else. We do not do that. We think it's just going to come to us. It is Absolutely. Ladies, it is not just coming to you. You have to continue to bring it up. You have to put it on your calendar. You have to have the data to back you up. And you have to have that conversation without feeling anxious or nervous or like, oh, please, cannot, sorry. Like you have to come in with a lot of confidence. And that was hard for me because we as women don't really want to be, we think that's confrontation, even though it's not, but we don't like that feeling. And I have just now put in like a lot of these startups I work for, I've put a yearly reminder for myself. Okay, time to up that contract, time to have that difficult conversation.
I love that so much.
I don't think men think it's difficult. I think they just think that's normal.
Yeah. Well, this could be a whole other podcast episode, but we're conditioned differently around asking for things and around negotiating and around talking around money and all of that. And so that's not an accident, but that's part of why I tell women physicians all the time. And this is something I help with. If a woman's being undercompensated, I make sure she knows. And then we work on that negotiation strategy and what the data shows and how we're going to go in and not have to be hostile, but also just present a case. And most of the time we're successful. And so I tell women, I'm like, if a man would ask for it, if you think a man would ask for it, then you ask for it.
Oh, I have had even in the past and not as much recently. I'll write an email. I'll be laying in bed and my husband, we're both on our laptops working. I'll write an email. I'll give it to him. He will literally take out some of my more passive words and just make it stronger. He's like, here, send that way. And I'm like, I look at him like, what? I can't put a smiley face there? That's going to feel weird. He's like, don't do it, Pam. Don't do it.
If it works for you.
Like, if it works for you. Yeah, we have to start thinking like that. And I think it starts with having good relationships with people like yourself, Lauren, because you have to feel comfortable to have those conversations and learn. I mean, I tap onto other people all the time when I'm like, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? And people do that for me. So you got to pay it forward as well, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love it. Again, we could create 3 episodes out of all the things that we could talk about, maybe more. So thank you so much, Pam, for being here today. I loved every minute.
Yeah, I loved every minute too. I've been waiting for this, Lauren. So thank you for having me.
That makes 2 of us. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of you who are listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We have so many more incredible ones on the docket for you all. So please do make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. We hope today's conversation advanced your journey toward wealth that matters. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our amazing episodes. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Vestia Advisors, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Before investing, you should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses associated with investment products. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification and asset allocation do not ensure a profit or guarantee against loss. Consult your financial professional before making any investments. Investment advisory services offered through Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, and Vestia Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Osdale Financial Partners, Inc., 5187 Utica Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa, 52807. Member, FINRA, SIPC. Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, Vestia Advisors, LLC, and Osdale Financial Partners, Inc. are independently owned and operated.